The night shift at the Crimson Scale Tavern was always quiet. Maya Chen wiped down the bar counter for the third time that hour, her eyes drifting to the wide windows that showed the endless stars outside. The rest stop floated at the edge of the frontier rim, a small bubble of light and warmth in the cold darkness of space. She had worked here for 2 years now. It was not exciting work, but it paid well enough. Most customers were traders or freight haulers, stopping for a hot meal and a few hours of rest before jumping back into the void. Maya did not mind. She liked the quiet. She liked the routine. The door hissed open. Maya looked up and felt her breath catch. 5 creatures walked in. No, not walked. They moved with a grace that seemed impossible for being so large. They were Drakthar, the dragon-like aliens she had only seen in news feeds and documentaries. Each one stood at least 8 feet tall, their bodies covered in scales that shimmered in shades of deep red and gold. Their wings were folded tight against their backs, and their tails swayed slowly behind them as they moved. Maya had never seen a Drakthar in person before. The tavern's owner had told her they sometimes passed through, but it was rare. They kept to their own space, their own stations. The 5 dragons chose a table in the corner, away from the few other customers scattered around the room. Maya grabbed her order pad and walked over, trying to keep her hands steady. Up close, they were even more impressive. Their eyes glowed with a soft amber light, and she could see old scars crossing their scales like silver threads. "Welcome to the Crimson Scale," Maya said, her voice coming out smaller than she intended. "What can I get for you?" The largest of them, a dragon with dark red scales that looked almost black in the dim light, glanced at her briefly. "Spiced creche, 5 portions, and fire root wine." Maya nodded and wrote it down. She had no idea what spiced creche was, but the computer system would know, coming right up. As she turned to leave, she noticed something on the dragon's shoulder, a tattoo. The scales there had been marked with a deep crimson ink, forming a pattern that looked like a sun surrounded by flames. It was beautiful and intricate, each line perfect. Maya froze. She knew that pattern. She had seen it before. Her hand moved to her pocket where she kept her phone. Inside it was one of the few photos she had of her mother. In that photo, her mother wore a sleeveless shirt, and on her shoulder was a tattoo. The same tattoo. Maya's mother had died when Maya was 12. A shuttle accident, they said. Quick and painless. But before that, her mother had been a medic in the Earth Defense Corps. She had served on deep space missions, going to places Maya could not even pronounce. Her mother never talked much about those years. When Maya asked, her mother would just smile and say, "I helped people who needed it." Maya looked at the tattoo again. It could not be a coincidence. The pattern was too specific, too detailed. "Excuse me," Maya said before she could stop herself. The dragons looked up at her, their glowing eyes fixed on her face. "That tattoo on your shoulder. My mom has the same one." The tavern went completely silent. It was as if someone had pressed a pause button on the entire universe. The dragons stared at her, their eyes wide. The largest one, who had ordered, slowly stood up. His chair scraped against the floor with a sound that seemed too loud. "What did you say?" His voice was low and rough, like stones grinding together. Maya swallowed hard. Had she said something wrong? Maybe the tattoo was sacred. Maybe she had just insulted them without meaning to. "I'm sorry, My mother had a tattoo just like that, on her shoulder. I noticed it and—" "Your mother." The dragon took a step closer. The other 4 stood up as well, their faces unreadable. "Human female. She has this mark?" "Had," Maya corrected quietly. "She died 8 years ago." The dragons exchanged looks. Something passed between them. Some silent communication that Maya could not understand. The largest dragon's hands were shaking slightly. She could see his claws extending and retracting like he was trying to control some strong emotion. "What was her name?" another dragon asked. This one had lighter scales, almost golden, with the same crimson tattoo on her shoulder. "Sarah Chen," Maya said. She was a combat medic. She served on the EDCS Nightingale. The golden-scaled dragon made a sound. It was somewhere between a gasp and a roar. She covered her mouth with her clawed hand, and Maya saw tears forming in her glowing eyes. "The Nightingale," the largest dragon repeated. "The small one with gentle hands." Maya felt confused and frightened. How did they know her mother? Why were they reacting like this? "Please," Maya said. "I don't understand." "How do you know my mother?" The largest dragon looked at her for a long moment. Then slowly he lowered himself down until he was at eye level with Maya. It was a position of respect, she realized. Dragons never lowered themselves for anyone. "This mark," he said, touching the tattoo on his shoulder, "is called the Mark of the Burning Sun. It is not given lightly. It is not earned easily. Only warriors who survived the siege of Zerath Prime can bear it." Maya shook her head. "But that was 40 years ago. Before humans even had faster-than-light travel. My mother couldn't have—" "She was there," the dragon said simply. "She saved my life. She saved all of our lives." The other customers in the tavern were watching now. Word was spreading through the rest stop's communication channels. More people were coming in, crowding near the door to see what was happening. Maya's mind was racing. Her mother had never mentioned Zerath Prime, never mentioned dragons. She had told Maya stories about treating injured soldiers, about long shifts in medical bays, about being scared but doing the job anyway. But never this. "I don't have much," Maya said slowly. "Just a few photos. Some of her things. She never talked about her service much." "Do you have a photo here?" the golden dragon asked, her voice gentle. "Please. We must know if it is truly her." Maya pulled out her phone with trembling hands. She scrolled through her photos until she found the one she was looking for. Her mother, young and smiling, wearing her medical corps uniform. The tattoo was clearly visible on her shoulder. She held the phone out. The 5 dragons crowded around, their large forms blocking out the light. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the largest dragon let out a sound that Maya would remember for the rest of her life. It was a cry of grief and joy mixed together, a sound so raw and powerful that it made the floor vibrate. The other dragons joined in, their voices rising in harmony. "It is her," the golden dragon whispered. "After all these years, the Flame Sister. We found her daughter." Maya stood there, her phone still in her hand, and wondered what her mother had done all those years ago. What had happened at Zerath Prime? And why had her mother never told her? The largest dragon straightened up and placed his clawed hand over his heart in what Maya recognized as a formal salute. "My name is Commander Vexnar, and your mother, Sarah Chen, is the reason I and 300 of my warriors are still alive." Maya felt tears on her cheeks. "Tell me," she whispered. "Please tell me what she did." Commander Vexnar gestured to the table. Maya sat down, her legs feeling weak. The other dragons pulled chairs closer, forming a circle around her. The tavern's owner brought drinks without being asked, setting them down quietly before backing away. Everyone in the rest stop seemed to understand that something important was happening. Vexnar was quiet for a moment, his glowing eyes distant, as if he was looking back through time. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft. 40 years ago, the Drakthar Empire was at war with the Zathek Swarm. You have heard of them, perhaps? Maya nodded. Everyone knew about the Zathek. They were insect-like creatures that moved from system to system, consuming everything. They had been defeated decades ago, pushed back into dark space. But the war had been terrible. The swarm had pushed deep into our territory. Vexnar continued. We were losing.
World after world fell.
Then they came to Zerath Prime. It was one of our colony worlds. 2 million Drakthar civilians lived there. Women, children, elders. We had to protect them. The golden dragon who had introduced herself as Sharia picked up the story. The Empire sent everything we had. Every warship, every fighter, every soldier. I was young then, barely 200 years old. It was my first real battle. Maya did some quick math in her head. Drakthar lived for a long time. If Sharia was young at 200, she must be over 240 now. The battle was brutal, Vexnar said. The swarm came in waves. We fought for days without rest. Our shields failed. Our weapons overheated. But we held the line because we had to. If Zerath fell, the path to our homeworld would be open. He paused, taking a long drink. His hand was still shaking slightly. On the 5th day, they broke through our orbital defense. Swarm ships crashed into our fleet. The carnage was... He stopped, closing his eyes. I commanded a dreadnought, the Crimson Dawn. We took a direct hit to our port side. 16 decks were exposed to space. Fire spread through the ship. Hundreds of my warriors died in seconds. Maya listened, barely breathing. She tried to imagine it. The darkness of space. The explosions. The screaming. But worse than the deaths was what came after, Sharia said. Our medical ships had been destroyed in the first hours of battle. We had wounded everywhere, but no way to treat them. Drakthar biology is complicated. We need specific medicines, specific procedures. We were watching our brothers and sisters die slowly, and we could do nothing. That is when your people arrived, Vexnar said. And for the first time Maya saw him smile. It was a sad smile, but genuine. A human medical frigate, the EDCS Nightingale. It was a small ship, not even a military vessel really. It was supposed to be mapping trade routes 3 systems away, but they heard our distress call. Humans were not even part of the war, another dragon added. This one had a deep scar across his face. Earth had only just developed jump drives. You were new to the galaxy. You had no reason to help us. No treaty bound you. No alliance forced your hand. But you came anyway, Sharya whispered. 43 humans on one small ship, flying into a battle that had already killed thousands. Flying into hell to help strangers. Vexnar pulled out a small device from his belt. He tapped it, and a hologram appeared above the table. Maya gasped. It showed a battle scene. Space was filled with ships, explosions, and debris. And there in the middle of it all was a small vessel. It looked tiny compared to the massive Drakthar warships around it. The Nightingale, Vexnar said. Your mother's ship. Maya leaned forward, staring at the hologram. She could see the ship moving between the larger vessels, dodging fire, racing toward the wounded. The captain of the Nightingale hailed us. Vexnar continued. I will never forget his words. He said, we are not warriors, but we are healers. Tell us where your wounded are. We told them to leave, Sharya said. We told them the battle was too dangerous. We told them they would die if they stayed. Do you know what their doctor said? Do you know what your mother said? Maya shook her head, unable to speak. Sharya's voice broke slightly. She said, we don't leave wounded behind, not ever. Now stop arguing and start sending us your injured. The hologram changed. Now it showed the interior of a ship. Maya could see humans in medical uniforms rushing around. And there in the center was her mother. Young, determined, her hands moving quickly as she worked on a wounded dragon. Is that? Maya whispered. Security footage from my dreadnought, Vexnar confirmed. We docked the Nightingale directly to our medical bay. Your mother and her team came aboard. They worked for 72 hours straight. No breaks, no sleep. The battle raged around us. We took hit after hit. Sections of the ship lost atmosphere. Fires broke out. But your mother never stopped. The hologram showed more scenes. Her mother and other human medics treating Drakthar soldiers. The dragons were so much larger than the humans, but the humans never hesitated. Maya saw her mother climbing on top of a wounded dragon, her hands pressing against a massive wound, her face set with concentration. Drakthar physiology is nothing like human, Vexnar explained. Our hearts are in different places. Our blood carries different elements. But your mother learned. She studied our medical database while she worked. She asked questions. She adapted human procedures to fit our biology. She invented new techniques on the spot. There was one moment, Sharya said quietly, when the ship lost gravity. We were all floating. There were wounded everywhere, screaming in pain. Equipment was flying around. It was chaos. I was there. I had taken shrapnel to my wing. I was bleeding badly. She touched her shoulder where the tattoo was. Your mother pushed herself through the air to reach me. She had to wedge herself between 2 bulkheads to stay in place. She tied herself down with medical tubing. Then she operated on me while debris flew past her head. A piece of metal cut her arm badly. I saw the blood. But she just wrapped it quickly and kept working. Maya felt tears running down her face. This was her mother. This was what she had done. When she finished, Sharya continued, when she had closed the wound and stopped the bleeding, she looked at me. She smiled. And she said, you're going to be fine. Now I need to get to the next one. Then she untied herself and pushed off toward another wounded warrior. She saved my life 3 times that day, Vexnar said. Once when I first came in, bleeding from 12 different wounds. Once when I went into shock from blood loss. And once when I tried to go back to my command station before I had healed. She physically blocked my way. A human female barely up to my chest, standing between me and the door telling me I was not fit for duty. He laughed, a deep rumbling sound. I was a commander. I had led warriors for decades, but I obeyed her, because I saw in her eyes the same fire that burns in the greatest Drakthar warriors, the fire that says, I will not let anyone die while I can still fight. The hologram changed one last time. It showed the aftermath of the battle, Wounded dragons lying in rows, human medics moving between them, and there was her mother sitting on the floor, her back against a wall, her eyes closed in exhaustion. Her uniform was torn and stained. Her hands were wrapped in bandages. But she was smiling. "We won the battle," Vexenar said. "Barely." The swarm retreated. Zerath Prime was saved, but the cost was terrible. Over 3,000 Drakthar died. 17 ships were destroyed. But because of your mother and her team, over 300 warriors who should have died lived. When it was over, Sharya said, we tried to honor them. We offered them medals, titles, land on Drakthar worlds, but they refused everything. Your mother said they were just doing their job. Vexenar touched his tattoo again. So we did this. All of us who survived because of the Nightingale crew, we marked ourselves with the burning sun. In Drakthar culture, the sun represents life and renewal. The flames represent sacrifice. This tattoo means, I live because someone else was willing to die for me. Maya looked at the tattoo on her phone photo. Her mother had never explained it. Maya had asked once when she was little. Her mother had just said it was from her time in service, nothing special. Nothing special, Maya whispered. She said it was nothing special. That was her way, Vexenar said gently. She never sought glory, never wanted recognition. She just wanted to help. That is why we call her Flame Sister. She burned with the same fire we do, but she burned to heal, not to destroy. Maya wiped her eyes. What happened to the Nightingale? The dragons went quiet. Finally, Vexenar spoke. After the battle, they were evacuating wounded to a medical station 3 systems away. Their ship was damaged. It had taken several hits protecting my dreadnought. We offered to escort them, but they said they would be fine. They wanted us to stay and help with the cleanup. He paused. They jumped away. We never saw them again. What? Maya felt cold. Their ship vanished, Sharya said. We searched for months. We found debris eventually. It looked like a jump drive failure. The Nightingale had pushed its engines too hard during the battle. When they tried to jump, it failed catastrophically. We thought everyone died, Vexenar said. For 40 years we have believed that. We have honored their memory. We have told their story to every young warrior. But we thought they were all gone. He looked at Maya with those glowing amber eyes. But you are here, which means some survived, which means your mother escaped somehow. Maya nodded slowly. Mom was on a shuttle. She told me once. She said the tavern had filled with people. Word had spread through the rest stop faster than light speed. Humans. Aliens of a dozen different species, even a few more Drakthar who had heard the commotion. They all stood at a respectful distance watching and listening. Maya looked around, suddenly aware of all the eyes on her. She felt small and overwhelmed. Her mother had done something incredible, something that had changed the course of history for an entire species, and Maya had spent years not knowing, serving drinks and wiping tables, thinking her mother had been just another medic on just another ship. I have so many questions, Maya said, turning back to Vexenar. Did you know her well? What was she like back then? The old dragon smiled, his scarred face softening. I knew her as well as anyone could in 3 days of hell. But yes, I can tell you what I remember. He settled back in his chair, which creaked under his weight. Your mother was young, maybe 25, 26 Earth years. She was small, even for a human. The first time I saw her, I thought she looked too fragile to be in a war zone. But that thought lasted about 3 seconds. Sharya laughed softly. I remember that. You were lying on the medical table, barely conscious, and she was ordering you around like you were a hatchling. Don't move. Don't talk. Let me work. She had a voice that made you obey without thinking. She did, Vexenar agreed. But it was not just the command in her voice. It was the confidence. She knew exactly what she was doing every moment. Her hands never shook. Her focus never wavered. Even when explosions rocked the ship, even when alarms were screaming, she just kept working. The dragon with the scarred face leaned forward. His name was Kethran, Maya had learned. I was there when the swarm breached our hull. Section 7 near the medical bay. The atmosphere was venting. Half my squadron was trapped. Your mother heard us on the emergency channel. His voice grew thick with emotion. She came for us. She and 2 other human medics. They put on emergency suits and came into the breach. The section was unstable. Metal was tearing. Conduits were exploding. But they came anyway. We lost one of our own there, Sharya said quietly. A human male, young. His suit was damaged by debris. He died before we could get him out. Your mother held him. She held him while he died, and she told him he was brave, that he was a hero. Then she closed his eyes and went back to saving the rest of us. Maya felt her chest tighten. She had never really thought about the cost. Her mother had saved hundreds, but others had died. Others had given everything. What was his name? Maya asked. The man who died? David Park, Vexnar said immediately. We remember all their names. The 43 humans of the Nightingale. We have a memorial on Zirath Prime. Every name is carved in eternal stone. He pulled out his hologram device again and showed Maya an image. It was a tall monument made of black stone that gleamed in the light. Names were carved into it in both human letters and Drakthar script. Maya saw her mother's name, Sarah Chen, combat medic. We hold a ceremony there every year, Sharya said. On the anniversary of the battle. Thousands come. We tell the story. We honor the sacrifice, and we teach our young ones what the humans did for us. Maya stared at the memorial. All those names. All those people who had died helping strangers. Did my mother know? Did she know about the memorial? Vexnar shook his head. We tried to find the survivors, but your people's records from that time were incomplete. Earth was still organizing its deep space operations. The Nightingale was not officially part of any military fleet. It was a civilian medical vessel that happened to have military-trained medics aboard. When it was lost, it was recorded as a jump accident, just another ship that vanished in the void. We had no way to track down individual survivors, Kethran added. We did not even know any had survived until tonight. Until you spoke those words. Maya thought about her mother's life after the war. She had continued working as a medic, but only on Earth. Never in space again. She had been quiet, gentle, but sometimes Maya would wake up in the night and hear her mother crying. She had nightmares. She would wake up shouting names that Maya did not recognize. David, Lisa, Chen, Captain Martinez. She had nightmares, Maya said. Bad ones. I would hear her at night. She would see a doctor about it sometimes, but she never really talked about what caused them. Survivor's guilt. Sharya said softly. We know it well. Many warriors suffer from it. She lived and others did not. She probably blamed herself, even though there was nothing she could have done. We tried to send her away, Vexnar said. Multiple times. I remember one moment very clearly. We had just taken another hit. The medical bay was on fire. I ordered all non-Drakthar personnel to evacuate. Your mother refused. He smiled at the memory. I told her it was a direct order. She looked up at me and said, You're not my commander. And even if you were, I took an oath. First, do no harm, but also never abandon a patient. These are my patients now, and I'm not leaving them. She was fierce, Kethran said. Like a fire that would not go out. The more desperate things got, the harder she worked. I saw her go 18 hours without food or water. When someone finally made her drink something, she took 2 gulps and went right back to work. There was another moment, Sharya said. We had a young warrior, barely adult. He was dying. We all knew it. The damage was too severe. Even with all her skill, your mother could not save him. But she stayed with him. She held his hand. She talked to him, kept him calm, made sure he was not alone when the end came. After he died, she took exactly 30 seconds, Vexnar said. 30 seconds to close her eyes and breathe. Then she stood up and moved to the next patient. That was who she was. She felt everything, but she never let it stop her from doing what needed to be done. Maya wiped her eyes again. She was crying openly now, and she did not care. I wish I could have known. I wish she had told me. Maybe she wanted to protect you, Sharya suggested. War changes people. The things we see, the things we do, they leave marks that go deeper than scars. Perhaps she did not want that darkness to touch your life. Or perhaps, Vexnar said, she was just humble. Some of the greatest warriors I have known are the quietest about their deeds. They do not do things for glory or recognition. They do things because it is right. Your mother was that kind of person. The tavern owner approached cautiously. Excuse me, she said to Maya, but there are news people outside. They heard what happened. They want to do a story. Maya looked at Vexnar, uncertain. The old dragon nodded. It is your choice. But the galaxy should know the truth. They should know what your mother did. What all the Nightingale crew did, Maya thought about it. Her mother had never wanted attention. She had lived a quiet life after the war. But maybe, Maya thought, that was not the same as wanting to be forgotten. Maybe her mother just did not know how to tell the story. Maybe she carried it alone because she thought no one would understand. Okay, Maya said. But I want to do it right. I want to tell the whole story. Everyone who served on that ship. Everyone who died. Not just my mother. Of course, Vexnar said. We will help you. We have records. We have testimonies. We have footage. We will make sure the galaxy knows every name, every face, every act of courage. Over the next few hours, Maya learned more about her mother than she had in her entire life. The dragons told her stories. They showed her more footage. They introduced her to other Drakthar who had been there, who had been saved by the Nightingale crew. She learned that her mother had a sense of humor even in the darkest times. That she sang while she worked. Old Earth songs that the dragons found strange but comforting. That she had a habit of touching patients on the shoulder and saying, "You're going to be fine. I've got you." She learned that her mother had been terrified, that she told one of her fellow medics she was scared every single moment but kept going anyway because people needed her. She learned that her mother had been offered a position in the Drakthar medical corps after the battle, that she had been offered citizenship, land, wealth. But she turned it all down because she just wanted to go home. She said Earth was still home, Vexnar remembered. She said she had done what she came to do, and now she needed to go back to where she belonged. We respected that even though we wanted her to stay. As the station's artificial night cycle began, Maya felt exhausted but also strangely peaceful. She understood her mother better now. She understood the nightmares, the quiet sadness, the way her mother always seemed to be carrying something heavy. But she also understood the strength. Her mother had been one of the bravest people in the galaxy, and she had lived her life like it was nothing special. She had gone back to being a regular medic, helping regular people, never asking for anything in return. "Thank you," Maya said to the dragons. "Thank you for telling me. Thank you for remembering her." "We could never forget," Sharya said. "She is part of our history now. Part of our souls." Every Drakthar child learns about the Battle of Zerath Prime. They learn about the burning sun. They learn about the humans who came when no one else would. Vexnar stood up, his massive form towering over the table. "But now we must do more than remember. We must honor. Your mother is still alive in you. Her legacy continues." And the Drakthar. The next morning, Maya woke up in her small quarters behind the tavern, to the sound of her phone ringing nonstop. She checked it and saw hundreds of messages. News feeds, interview requests, messages from people she had never met. The story had gone viral across the galactic network. She scrolled through some of the headlines. Lost heroes of Zerath Prime found. Human medic's daughter discovered after 40 years. The Nightingale's legacy lives on. There were pictures of her mother everywhere. Old military photos that Maya had never seen. Footage from the battle. Images of the memorial on Zerath Prime. Her mother's face, young and determined, was on every screen in the galaxy now. Maya felt strange about it. Part of her was proud. Part of her wanted to protect her mother's privacy, even though her mother was gone. But mostly she felt like she was finally understanding who her mother really was. A knock on her door made her jump. She opened it to find Vexnar standing there, having to duck to fit in the corridor. "I apologize for disturbing you," he said. "But there are many Drakthar arriving at the station. They heard the news. They want to meet you." "Meet me?" Maya asked. "Why?" "Because you are her daughter," Vexnar said simply. "Because many of them are alive today because of her. They want to thank you, to honor her memory, to finally express what they have felt for 40 years. Maya got dressed and followed Vexnar to the main docking area. When the doors opened, she stopped and stared. The massive space was filled with Drakthar. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. They stood in quiet rows, all of them with the burning sun tattoo on their shoulders. They were old, Maya realized. These were not young warriors. These were veterans, scarred and weathered, with scales that had faded with age. But their eyes still glowed bright, and they stood straight and proud. When they saw Maya, they all dropped to one knee. The entire crowd in perfect unison kneeling before her. "Please," Maya said, feeling overwhelmed. "Please don't, I didn't do anything. That was my mother, not me." An elderly dragon with pale gray scales stepped forward. She was supported by a younger Drakthar, and one of her wings was twisted, clearly an old injury that had never healed properly. "Child," she said, her voice rough with age, "we kneel not just for your mother, but for you as well. You carry her blood. You carry her spirit. That is worthy of respect." She reached out with a shaking hand and touched Maya's cheek gently. Her scales were warm. "Your mother saved my life. She operated on me for 6 hours. My spine was damaged. She told me I might never fly again, but she would do everything she could. She succeeded. I flew for 30 more years before age finally grounded me. She gave me those years." The old dragon continued, tears flowing from her glowing eyes. "She gave me time to see my children grow, to watch my grandchildren hatch, to live a full life. I have wanted to thank her for 40 years. Let me at least thank you." Maya did not know what to say. She just nodded, and the old dragon pulled her into a gentle embrace. Maya felt the warmth of her scales, heard the steady beat of her heart. One by one, the dragons came forward. Each one had a story. Each one told Maya what her mother had done for them. A warrior with a missing arm told her that her mother had saved his life after a bulkhead collapsed on him. "She dug through the rubble with her bare hands," he said. "Her fingers were bleeding, but she did not stop until she found me." A female dragon with burn scars across her face said that her mother had treated her burns for hours, applying medicine and wrapping bandages even as the ship shook around them. "She told me I was beautiful," the dragon said, "even with my face burned. She said scars were proof that we survived, that we were strong enough to keep living." A pilot told Maya that her mother had climbed into his crashed fighter to pull him out. The fuel was leaking. The ship could have exploded any second. But she came in anyway. She dragged me out and treated my injuries right there on the hangar floor while other fighters were taking off around us. The stories went on for hours. Each one was a piece of her mother that Maya had never known. Each one showed a woman of incredible courage, incredible compassion, incredible strength. But there was something else in the stories too. Something that made Maya's heart ache. Guilt. These dragons felt guilty. "We have carried this debt for 40 years, one of them said. "Your people came to help us and we let them die. We should have protected the nightingale. We should have escorted them. We should have done more." Vexnar stepped forward, his voice heavy. "This is the burden we carry. The humans saved us and we could not save them in return. It is a failure that haunts us." Maya looked at all these warriors, these people who had fought and bled and nearly died. They had survived one of the worst battles in galactic history, but they felt like they had failed. "It was not your fault," Maya said. "You didn't know their ship would fail. You didn't know what would happen. But we should have done more," Sharya said. She had tears on her face too. "We should have insisted on escorting them. We should have checked their ship more carefully. We were so focused on celebrating our victory, on tending our own wounded, that we let them slip away. And they died." Maya felt a surge of emotion. These people had carried this guilt for 4 decades. They had built memorials and told stories and honored the dead, but they had never been able to actually thank anyone, to make amends, to find closure. "My mother survived," Maya said firmly. "She got away. And you know what she did? She went back to Earth and kept being a medic. She kept helping people. She kept saving lives. Do you think she did that because she blamed you?" The dragons were silent, listening. "She did it because that was who she was," Maya continued. "She helped you because she wanted to. Because it was right. Not because she expected anything in return. She would not want you to feel guilty. She would want you to live, to be happy, to honor her by being the best people you can be." "But the debt," one of the younger dragons said. "How do we repay it?" Maya thought about that. She thought about her mother, about the woman in the stories and the woman she had known. The woman who sang while she worked. The woman who told scared patients they would be fine. The woman who held dying soldiers and made sure they were not alone. "You already have," Maya said. "You lived. You had families. You built lives. You made the galaxy a better place." That's what she wanted. That's why she did what she did. Not for glory or payment or gratitude. She just wanted people to live. Vexnar bowed his head. "You sound like her," he said quietly. "You have her wisdom." "I wish I had her courage," Maya said. "I'm just a waitress. I serve drinks and clean tables. I haven't done anything important." "You are doing something important right now," the old gray dragon said. "You are giving us peace. You are releasing us from our guilt. That is no small thing." Over the next few days, the station became a gathering place. More Drakthar arrived. Some were warriors who had been at Zerath Prime. Others were children and grandchildren of the survivors. They all wanted to meet Maya, to hear about her mother, to share their own stories. Vexnar organized everything. He set up a proper area in the station's main hall where people could come and talk. He brought more footage from the battle, more records from the Drakthar archives. He even found personal logs from some of the Nightingale crew. Maya spent hours watching the footage, reading the logs, learning about the people her mother had served with. She saw Captain Martinez, a stern-faced woman who had made the decision to fly into the battle. She saw David Park, the young medic who had died saving others. She saw Lisa Chen, her mother's sister, who Maya had never known existed. My mother had a sister? Maya asked Vexnar in shock. Yes, he said. Lisa Chen was the head nurse. She died in the explosion when the Nightingale's jump drive failed. I am sorry. I thought you knew. Maya shook her head. Her mother had never mentioned having a sister, had never spoken about losing her. Another piece of pain her mother had carried alone. She must have been devastated, Maya whispered. She was, Sharya said gently. She had stayed on the station too, along with several other dragons. I remember after the battle your mother talked about her sister. She said Lisa had always wanted to see the stars, that she had dreamed of meeting alien species and learning about their cultures. Coming to Zerath Prime had been Lisa's idea. And she died there, Maya said. She died saving lives, Sharya corrected. The logs show that Lisa was on the bridge when the drive failed. She could have evacuated to a shuttle, but she stayed to help coordinate the evacuation of wounded. She made sure every injured dragon was off the ship before she would leave. She died making sure others lived. Maya looked at the photo of Lisa Chen. She looked a lot like Maya's mother, but younger, with a brighter smile. Do they have the same tattoo? Maya asked. Vexnar nodded. All 43 members of the Nightingale crew received the mark of the burning sun. We tattooed them ourselves on the ship after the battle. It was an impromptu ceremony. We marked them as our own, as warriors and healers of the highest honor. My mother and her sister both had it, Maya said. They went through hell together, and then my mother lost her, and carried that pain for the rest of her life, Sharya said. That is why she never spoke of it. Too much grief. Too many memories. 3 months later, Maya stood in front of a massive crowd on Zerath Prime. The planet was beautiful, with purple skies and silver oceans. The capital city was built into the side of a mountain, with buildings that seemed to grow naturally from the rock. But Maya was not looking at the scenery. She was looking at the memorial. The black stone monument had been expanded. Now it included holographic projectors that showed images of the Nightingale crew. Their faces smiled out at the crowd, frozen in time, forever young. Tens of thousands of Drakthar had gathered for the ceremony. But there were also humans, hundreds of them, families of the Nightingale crew. Maya had helped find them, working with Vexnar and his people. Some had known their relatives served on the ship. Others, like Maya, had never been told the full story. David Park's younger brother was there, an old man now with white hair. Lisa Chen's daughter, who Maya had never known existed, stood next to Maya, holding her hand. Captain Martinez's husband had died years ago, but her grandchildren came. 3 adults who stared at their grandmother's image with tears in their eyes. Vexnar stood at the front of the crowd, wearing formal armor that gleamed in the sunlight. His voice carried across the plaza, amplified by speakers. 40 years ago, he began, we faced our darkest hour. The enemy was at our gates. Our ships were burning. Our people were dying. We had fought with everything we had, and it was not enough. We were losing hope. He paused, looking at the memorial. And then they came. 43 humans on one small ship. They had no reason to help us. We were strangers. The war was not theirs to fight, but they came anyway. The crowd was completely silent. Even the wind seemed to have stopped. They came because it was right, Vexnar continued. Because when they heard our call for help, they could not ignore it. Because their hearts burned with the same fire that we Drakthar hold sacred. The fire that says, I will not stand by while others suffer. He gestured to the holographic images. These 43 people changed the course of our history. Without them, 300 warriors would have died. Without them, the Battle of Zerath Prime might have been lost. Without them, the Drakthar Empire might have fallen. But they did not do it for glory, Sharia said, stepping forward to join Vexnar. They did not do it for reward. When we tried to honor them, they refused. When we offered them wealth and titles, they said no. They just wanted to go home. Most of them never made it home, Vexnar said, his voice thick with emotion. Their ship failed. They died in the dark void, far from Earth, far from their families. For 40 years we thought they were all gone. For 40 years we mourned them. For 40 years we felt guilty that we could not save them as they saved us. He turned to look at Maya and the other families. But today we learned that some did survive, that their families carried on, that their legacy lives in the people standing before us now. Vexnar walked over to Maya. He was carrying something, a box made of dark metal. He opened it carefully and Maya saw what was inside. A medical kit, old and battered with scorch marks and scratches covering its surface. We recovered this from the wreckage of the Nightingale, Vexnar said. It was your mother's medical kit. It survived the explosion. We have kept it in our archives for 40 years, hoping someday we could return it to her. He handed the box to Maya. She took it with shaking hands. The kit was heavy, solid. She opened it and saw medical instruments inside, each one carefully secured in its place. They were old-style tools, the kind doctors did not use anymore. But they were well-made, well-maintained, and there, tucked into a side pocket, was a small notebook. Maya pulled it out carefully. The pages were yellowed with age, but the writing was clear. Her mother's handwriting, her mother's words. Maya opened to a random page and read, Day 3 of the battle. We have been working non-stop. I have lost count of how many surgeries I have performed. My hands are shaking from exhaustion, but I cannot stop. There are too many wounded, too many who need help. Lisa says I need to rest, but how can I? How? Can I sleep while people are dying? Maya flipped to another page. The Drakthar are amazing. So strong, so brave. They thank me after I treat them, then immediately want to go back to fighting. I have to physically restrain some of them to make them stay and heal. They remind me why I became a medic, to give people a chance to keep living. Another page. David died today. He died saving others. He was so young. He had his whole life ahead of him. I keep thinking about his parents. How do I tell them? How do I explain that their son died in a war that was not ours, in a place they cannot even pronounce? But he died a hero. He died making sure others lived. I have to remember that. I have to believe it meant something. Maya's vision blurred with tears. She flipped to the last entry, written after the battle. We are leaving Zerath Prime tomorrow. The Drakthar want us to stay. But I cannot. I need to go home. I need to process what happened here. We lost so many people. David, Lisa, Captain Martinez, others. The Drakthar gave us these tattoos, these marks of honor. But every time I look at mine, I will remember the cost. I will remember the people who did not come home. I do not feel like a hero. I feel like someone who tried their best and watched people die anyway. But the Drakthar keep thanking me. They keep saying I saved them. Maybe that has to be enough. Maybe that is what heroism is. Not feeling brave, but doing what needs to be done anyway. Not seeking glory, but just trying to help. If I have children someday, I do not know if I will tell them about this. How do you explain war to someone who has never seen it? How do you explain that you went to hell and came back different? Maybe I will just love them and protect them and try to make sure they never have to see what I have seen. Maybe that is enough. Maya closed the notebook, holding it against her chest. Her mother had written these words 40 years ago, not knowing that her daughter would read them someday, not knowing that the story would finally be told. Thank you, Maya said to Vexnar. Thank you for keeping this, for remembering. The old dragon bowed his head. It is we who should thank you, thank all of you. He looked at the other families. Your loved ones gave us the greatest gift. They gave us life. They gave us hope. They showed us that the universe is not just about war and survival. It is also about compassion and sacrifice. and doing what is right. The ceremony continued. Each family member was called forward to receive items that had been recovered from the Nightingale, personal effects, medals of honor from the Drakthar Empire, recordings of their loved ones, stories from those who had known them. When it was over, Maya stood by the memorial with Lisa Chen's daughter, whose name was Rachel. They looked at their family members' names carved in stone. "I never knew my mother," Rachel said quietly. "She died before I was born. My father told me she was a nurse who died in an accident. He never told me she was a hero." "Same," Maya said. "I guess they were trying to protect us, trying to keep us from the darkness they had seen." "Maybe," Rachel agreed, "but I wish I had known. I wish I could have asked her about it. I wish I could have told her I was proud." "They knew," Maya said. "They had to know. How could they not? They did something incredible. They saved hundreds of lives. That does not just go away." They stood in silence for a while, watching the sun set over Zerath Prime. The purple sky turned orange and red, painting the city in warm colors. "What will you do now?" Rachel asked. Maya thought about that question. The Drakthar had offered her many things: a position in their government, citizenship on Zerath Prime, land, wealth, fame. Every news network in the galaxy wanted to interview her. Publishers wanted her to write a book. Movie studios wanted to make films. But Maya did not want any of that. She had learned something from her mother's journal, from the stories the dragons told, from the quiet way her mother had lived her life after the war. "I am going back to the tavern," Maya said. Rachel looked surprised. "Really? But you could do anything now. You could be famous. Important." "My mother was famous and important," Maya said. "At least, she should have been. But she chose to go back to being a regular medic. She chose to help regular people in regular ways. She chose service over glory." "That is what made her great," Maya continued. "Not the medals or the recognition. The fact that she did what was right without asking for anything in return. The fact that she saw helping people as just her job, nothing special."
"So that is what I will do," Maya said firmly. "I will go back to the tavern. I will serve drinks and clean tables and talk to customers. And maybe, when people ask about the tattoo I'm going to get, I will tell them the story. I will tell
them about the Nightingale and the people who served on it. I will keep their memory alive in my own way." Rachel smiled. "Your mother would be proud." "I hope so," Maya said. 1 week later, Maya was back at the tavern. She wore her uniform and carried her tray and went about her work like always. But there was one change. On her shoulder, fresh and still healing, was a tattoo, the mark of the burning sun. Vexnar had done it himself, using traditional Drakthar methods. It had hurt, but Maya did not mind. She wore it proudly, just like her mother had. Customers asked about it sometimes. And when they did, Maya would smile and tell them the story. Not the whole story, not all at once, but pieces of it, little moments, the way her mother had sung while she worked.